Hi everyone, Adrian Player here, mortgage broker. We're going to be talking about the Dashdot buyers agency collapse. We're going to be talking about the lending space and property cycles because there's a lot of people that have been riding a 5 to 6 year bull run on the resi side, and they haven't been prepared for what's coming. And if you've been around in the industry as long as I have, in 17 years, I started out on a ComSec margin lending desk during the GFC in 2008 to 2010. I've been in the broker space for 9.5 years. A lot of this was very foreseeable. All right, so let's talk about it. So Dashdot's gone bust, right? We're not going to talk about whether or not they have or have not done the right thing, because there's a lot of people in this industry that are still trying to do the right thing, and they're going to get smacked, and 50% are going to leave the industry, including anyone that's attached to any form of property transaction. So all the different professionals. And then in the buyer's agency space, you're probably going to see like 80% of the buyer's agency staff get cut to get through this, especially the ones that are focusing on resi. And look, we're seeing it. Everyone pivoted over to SMSF resi, and then now that's being shut off by the Labor government changes in August 10. And now you're seeing all these resi ones, the ones that are small are staying in the resi space. The ones that are big are trying to slap on commercial buyer's agency, but they don't have the experience or track record. So what they do is they go and find a guy with 15 to 20 years experience like me in the lending space or the investor space, but they'll find them in the commercial sales and leasing space, and then smack that onto their business and act like they've got experience from the buyer's agency side. So you're seeing a lot of the buyer's agents do that now, and they're just doing that as a survival mechanism because they've gotten way too big, and all the money's flowing over to commercial at the moment. So you're seeing a lot of single buyer's agents move over there, and a lot of resi brokers and property investors, brokers moving over to commercial, and they don't have the experience and they don't have the track record. All right, so that's what's happening at the moment. And look, anyone that understands the industry and has been around longer than 2 minutes in the space knows this was coming. All right, the risk taking has been going through the roof. All right, we've all seen in the resi space, Perth down to Bunbury, Adelaide, Brisbane, Cairns down to Bundaberg, all go through the roof over a 5+ year period. And then you've seen some regional areas like Mildura in 2020 go from 160, now it's up to 550 grand. And you know, there's less and less A-grade stock. That's like New South Wales regional and Victoria regional has a lot of flood and fire risk. So there's a lot of overlay there. And there's not much left other than Melbourne, but then Melbourne's got all the problems with the state government and the debt and going after investors, and just, you know, huge stagnations in prices for the last kind of 5 to 8 years in houses and units, depending on where they are. So let's talk about what we've seen in the past. So in 2018, what did we see? We saw the Banking Royal Commission. What happened before the Banking Royal Commission? What did we see? We saw the off the plan space fall through the floor. What was happening in that space? We were seeing Aussie expat lending and non-resident lending buying up lots of off the plan units in main cities. And there was a lot of people since 2010, and what they were doing was they were putting 5% deposits down and then trying not to complete on properties, and every year having 1 or 2 properties come due, and then they were offloading it and making money hand over fist. And then towards 2015, a lot of the clauses changed where you'd have to settle on the property, get the lending, and then sell it. And then people were making money hand over fist. And then what happened was all the lending changed because the banks found out that there were a lot of non-residents and Aussie expats that were all saying that they were getting lending, and they were all working from a certain Asian country warehouse, and they were getting the loans, and it was all fraudulent. Okay, so off the plan fell through the floor, and then suddenly anyone that signed a contract after 2016, 2017, the prices fell through the floor. So your contract price might have been $1 million, but your bank val was coming in at, some of the worst cases I saw was 25% under, so 750 or 800. But a lot of them were like 100 to 200 grand under contract price. And then a lot of people were losing their deposits, right? Or having to give the property back to the developer to sell. And then there was a lot of lawsuits around, lower contract prices between developers and people that bought property that couldn't complete. And then what else did we see? We saw ANZ get slapped on the wrist from APRA and ASIC, post-Banking Royal Commission. They were doing too much interest-only lending on investments. And then what happened after that? They sent an email out to 200,000 plus clients saying that we're not going to renew your interest only, and you've either got to go on to principal and interest or refinance out. So there are huge amounts of movement, and there was a clock on everyone. And then what else did we see in the buyer's agency space around 2015, 2016? We saw Property 18, Sasha Hopkins. Every year he got bigger and his marketing was all fancy and he was in the resi space. And then he'd set up a building company. Then he set up a development company. And then every year he got bigger and bigger. And then he started doing developments. Then he started setting up property syndicates. And then by the end, when the 2018 collapse occurred, you saw, I think he owed 30 to 50 million. And if you search Property 18 Sasha Hopkins, there's a whole website set up by the people that got defrauded by him and Property 18, and then to warn others about him if he ever goes anywhere else. Now, look, anyone that knows that when they look at the property investment space, especially the buyers agencies that got so big, their marketing got so good, and their buyers list got so long, that after 6 years of a resi bull run and the majority of the country going through the roof, the risk taking kept going up. All right, Mildura 2020 was 160 grand. Now people are being loaded in at 550. Darwin, 10k south of Darwin. You better be early in buying Darwin, and you better be early selling it, because there's a lot of investors that all got loaded in. Now, you've got to ask the question, was Darwin a good on their property analytics because the rest of the country had gone up, so they looked good by default? Or did they look good because 3 of the big buyers agencies went in and bought up all the properties, so then the data looked good? Or did the data look good by itself? Or was it a self-fulfilling prophecy because they all bought up all the stock and then they made it look good? So that's a question that you got to ask yourself. And if you're in the Darwin market, you better sell early, because there's no one that makes money in Darwin holding long term, and regardless. And you better have a very low cost of buy-in, and buy-in before the herd, to think about a long-term hold in Darwin. All right. And then you've got the only main city that hasn't gone up through the roof is Melbourne. And then you've got all the state government and the debt issues and going after investors and extra taxes, right? So there's not that many A-grade stock left. So what are the big buyers agents doing right now? They're all adding on commercial lending arms, where they go and find a guy that's got my kind of lending experience in the investment space, in the commercial leasing and sales space, slapping it onto their business, and then acting like they've got a good track record for buyers agency in the commercial space when they don't. And the only reason why they're doing that is to survive this downturn, because half of the buyers agents are not going to be in this space. And the ones that survive, especially the ones that focus on resi, will probably end up firing at least 80+% of their staff. So look, anyone that's been in this space longer than 2 minutes knew that this was coming. All right, you should be de-risking yourself for the last 18 plus months, which is exactly what I've been doing personally, and exactly what I've been advising my clients to do personally. If this video has added any value, send me a message. I'm more than happy to help. Take care.